And I'm Brian.
Brian, nice to meet you, Brian.
Nice to meet you too.
Where are you from?
I'm from England, mate.
Oh, all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm from jolly England, mate.
And where's Wolfgang?
I don't know who that is. I'm watching the telly. I'm watching Harry Potter on the telly.
We're trying to do a podcast, though. Maybe you shouldn't be watching something.
Let me watch Harry Potter on the telly.
Do you have something in your mouth? Are you eating right now?
I'm eating a crumpet. Have a cup of tea with a crumpet. Watching the telly with Harry Potter on. Mate.
Can we have Wolfgang back? Can you go away now, Brian?
Goodbye. Jolly goodbye.
Jolly good.
Hello, everybody. It's me, your favorite host, Wolfgang, and this is my co-host, Danielle.
You want to try that again?
Hello, everybody. It's me, your favorite host, Wolfgang, and my co-host, Danielle.
I didn't mean repeat what you said.
Oh.
I just meant, I'm not your co-host.
You're my co-host.
I'm the host.
You're the co-host.
I'm the host.
You're
who came up with
like Al Borland.
Who came up with the name of the podcast?
You're like Al Borland in Home Improvement.
Everybody likes Al better than Tim.
Yeah, but I'm Tim. The main man.
I can't do the grunt thing.
I can't either. I can't either.
I don't know how to do it.
I don't know.
We've been watching Home Improvement, and if you are too young too young to know what Home Improvement is, shame on you.
The thing
shame.
It's not a good show.
It's great.
No, it's not.
What do you mean it's not a good show?
The thing is, in total, it's not a great show. It's only great because there's so much nostalgia in it, and I've been watching it since I was like 4 or 5, I think. I've watched that show so many years, and it's been a constant on TV. Yeah, I mean...
For what it is, it's a sitcom. It's a silly sitcom, and I think it's great for that.
It's not...
I'm not saying like it's 8 or 10 star rating to today's standards.
I mean, I agree, it's a great sitcom, but like in comparison to other sitcoms that were around that era, they're way better ones in terms of story, in terms of character, because they never really develop. There's no real like story arc over the season. Nothing really happens.
Look at Friends. Friends started at the same time or around the same time.
Right.
And that's just brilliant.
Right. But there's nothing really going on. And every episode is like it's the same. So it starts off with him in tool time and he does some stupid shit. And then he fucks up somehow. And then he asks Wilson. And at the end, there's like this, made up scene where they make up and everything's fine.
The endings are very bizarre on that show. And
then there's this weird, either just some B-rolls that they didn't fit in the show, or some really unfunny bloopers, or just like, again, a scene that we just saw just in a different angle or with different cuts. It's weird. It's weird.
It is weird. My favorite thing, though, are what are they called when they cut to the next scene, the transition.
The
transitions are so good. They're so good.
They're funny, yeah.
It's like watching a PowerPoint.
Yeah,
oh my.
Yeah. they really went out with those
great.
Transitions. Yeah.
Anyways, we're not here to talk about Home Improvement. What is our topic today?
Our topic today is panic attacks, because they're so fun.
No, I think it's a relevant topic because with the pandemic, I mean, we're almost at the year mark already, which is crazy for like when we first went into lockdown the first time. And not much has changed.
No.
And
I mean, you got the vaccine already, so that's changed.
Yeah, I got the first doses I've got. First dose. Yeah, but what was my train of thought is now gone. No, I think it's relevant because of the pandemic, and I think a lot of people are experiencing anxiety for the first time, and don't really know what it is they're feeling because they've never had anxiety, they've never experienced it, and anxiety at high levels tends to lead to panic attacks.
Yeah. I mean, anxiety peaks in the panic attacks, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people already experience panic attacks, even though they might not like felt like, or you might not even know that you had one at some point, because if you have them for the first time, there are a lot of sensations that go along with a panic attack, and we will go into them and why your body reacts a certain way, and also why it's completely harmless. It might feel like you die, or you have a heart attack, or you have a collapse or something, but is that a thing, having a collapse, or are you collapsing? Collapsing.
Yeah, but in what sense do you mean collapsing?
Like
collapsing
breathing.
means collapsing means like you fall down, you collapse.
Yeah, even that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think and we talked about health anxiety on the podcast. It's a great episode. You should hit it up, and we probably do like a follow-up episode on that one. We talked about health anxiety symptoms a lot, and we also talked about relationship anxiety, and in general like depression and like
generalized anxiety.
Right? And I mean, without to go into much detail because we did already episodes on them, but I mean, anxiety is a bitch, so to say. And yeah, as I said, there are a lot of symptoms that go along with that. And I think one of the profound or the bigger symptoms is that you get focused so much on your body because of the adrenaline. Like you basically listen to every little sensation that you have in your body, and it gets amplified, and that makes the whole experience more scary.
Yeah.
And with like the panic attack, that's like the peak. You basically get thrown into a cocktail of adrenaline, and what is the other thing I'm looking for?
I think serotonin is the thing you're looking for.
Yeah, but there's another hormone that gets like
endorphins?
No, it's not endorphin. Endorphin is the good thing. But it doesn't matter. But it's basically a hormone cocktail that gets dumped in your brain all of a sudden, and it's the fight or flight response, right? And that's kind of a good thing because that basically makes us.
I mean, fight or flight is something we have already, and it basically lives in our nervous system. And it's exactly, it's there for a reason. It's there for exactly like, say you encounter a grizzly bear. That's just the most common example to explain it. But say you encounter a grizzly bear, your body automatically goes into this state of either fight or flight, which is to protect you, essentially. It's there as a means of protection. But when you have a panic attack, your fight or flight response turns on for literally no reason. Yeah. Like there is no knowledgeable or logical reason behind why your body goes into fight or flight mode, but it does.
Right. And that puts a lot of physical sensations into your body, or that you feel a lot of physical sensations. For me, for example, it's most of the time the area that I'm focusing on already because of my anxiety. And all of a sudden I feel pain where there is no pain, I feel things that I think that are not normal or that are connected to some sort of sickness or whatever. And that even more fuels the anxiety and the panic attack, and it gets worse. But the fun thing is that it's completely harmless. And it might feel like you can't breathe right, or it might feel like you have a heart attack because your heart is like seemingly jumping out of your chest, or you get nauseous, you have like the worst cramps. There are multiple things, multiple sensations.
Yeah. And I think I think for people with health anxiety, there a lot of the time when like yourself, when you have a panic attack, it usually spikes from anxiety based on like you're searching for symptoms, or you're thinking too hard on something within your body. But for me, I'm someone who doesn't necessarily have health anxiety. For me, my panic attacks start sometimes for no reason. Sometimes I'm just really stressed, and
stress is a factor.
It just decides, okay, this is just going to happen. And if even when I'm not really feeling stressed in that moment, but if I've been stressed a lot, sometimes I'll have a panic attack for no reason. My most recent panic attack was after I got the vaccine, the first doses, because I was you have all of the symptoms afterwards, like the reaction that your body has to it, which is totally normal, and I was expecting to have it, but it was so intense for me, and it woke me up in the middle of the night, and I had a panic attack at 2 a.m. because I just felt like you, exactly what you said, you focus on each individual thing that starts to happen when you have a panic attack. So I'm focusing on how I'm feeling. I'm focusing on my heart beating super fast. I'm focusing on not really feeling like I can take a deep breath. And I freaked out and I had a massive panic attack. And I think it's just, it can come from so many different things. It sometimes can just come out of nowhere because you've had some stress in the last days, weeks.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting, the studies that they have done on panic attacks. And sometimes a panic attack even starts like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour before you even like feel it.
Yeah, like some of the symptoms start to build.
Right. And I mean, usually if you had experienced a panic attack before, if you have panic attacks multiple times a year, you probably know that you are stressed in certain situations, that you have like either, I mean, panic disorder is like the worst thing in that sense, but you have like like an anxiety attack, or in general anxiety, and that's something you should look at, and there are multiple ways to do that. But maybe let's go quick in our personal experiences. I mean, you already talked a little bit about your recent panic attacks. The thing is, I never had like a classic panic attack. I think, like in the sense that all of the sudden my body reacted this really stressful way. For me, the highest thing that is what I experienced was like really severe anxiety, but like not for just like a few minutes, but like for hours or days even, which felt like shit, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think I never really had like a panic. I mean, I think once a little bit, but that was, I don't know, maybe, I mean, I could totally be because I was super anxious at that time, and I looked at everything, and at some point, I went to the toilet and I thought I had blood in my stool, and I think that was actually a panic attack. But then I remembered I had beets the day before. And
yeah, never let yourself forget when you eat beets.
Yeah.
Just remember, I ate beets.
Yeah.
This could mean that my poop will be a weird color and not panic, because that happens to me too when we eat beets.
So I think that was like the closest that I came to a panic attack. But other than that, I think I never really, maybe I did at some point, but I can't remember.
And I also think it looks different for everybody. A panic attack doesn't necessarily have to be like what you see on TV or in the movies, or, like where people are completely debilitated and they're on the floor and they can't breathe, and they're breathing super heavily or fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look like that for everybody. And it could be, and this is actually very much recommended by doctors and scientists, that if you're in the middle of a panic attack, try not to run away from it. Try not to distract yourself, even though that seems like the most logical thing to do is to distract yourself. It's actually better for your own body to let yourself go through it, and try to continue what you were doing, so that not as a distraction, but just as a way to compensate almost. So try to live through it, feel the emotions, feel everything that you need to feel, but remind yourself, this cannot harm me. This is just basically, think of it scientifically, this is an overdose of adrenaline, and my body doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And when you have a lot of adrenaline, think about if you do something like scary, like you're on a roller coaster, you have a lot of adrenaline in your body. It's that same feeling. And so you just have to remind yourself, this cannot hurt me. Take some deep breaths and let yourself feel it, and don't run away from it.
Take some deep breaths.
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 Not breaths.
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 Sack breaths. Take some deep sack breaths. Another thing is to gain some knowledge about them. Don't wait until you have a panic attack, but maybe read a little bit about it to fully understand what's going on in your body, because when you have them, you can calm yourself with exactly that knowledge, and it helps a little bit to understand what is happening in your body and why you feel certain things. And also to calm yourself down by telling yourself it's not something that can harm you. And there are a lot of things you can basically do to calm yourself during a panic attack. I mean, you already said there, you shouldn't run away from it. You should let it happen, and you should just basically ride it out, because it's still, you can't run away from your hormones in your brain. So you should ride it out, and you should not distract yourself, but keep doing what you're doing. And if it's really bad, maybe someone is there who can support you during the brief time. But there are also breathing exercises. And if you have ever done yoga or like some sort of meditation, you already know those exercises where you basically focus on your breath and you do some deep breathing. For example, you breathe in and then hold it, and then breathe out and then hold it. And again, for example, that's one. Or breathe in slowly and deeply and just focus completely. Or breathe in just through your nose, for example, and then out of your mouth.
I find that that's the best way to kind of reset your nervous system, and that's actually also proven. There are breathing techniques that help you reset exactly all of those things.
Yeah.
And the one that has really helped me, not just when I'm having a panic attack, but just in general when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, or just feel like I need a minute, or when you're angry, it's also great. But you breathe in through your nose as slowly as possible and count to 7. Count to 7, and then you hold it for 2, and then you breathe out through your mouth, like slowly, but so you're not really counting out, but you're letting as much air out as possible to the point where you feel like there's literally no more air left in your body. And you repeat that, and if you do that for a few minutes, it's very helpful. Yeah. You'll also probably feel very tired afterwards, because it's exactly resetting your nervous system, and it's helping your I only know it in German now, that's funny. But it's basically helping the part of your nervous system that prepares you for sleep, for rest, for all of that. That's kind of what it's activating.
That also helps you when you can't fall asleep. It's a nice thing.
It's great, yeah. So that's something I personally recommend, because that helps me.
There are also other ways where you can basically prevent or work against panic attacks. It's not a fun thing to live with, and you don't have to. CBT, we already talked about that in the anxiety episode, is cognitive behavioral therapy. There are workbooks online. You can just buy them, and you can do them yourself, and you can learn how to basically rewire your brain to not be super anxious all the time. And it's a great way to basically start something in your brain, to start a change. Obviously, therapy is always a thing, and a lot of therapists do exactly that. CBT, they work with you through certain things. They give you tools to rewire your brain, to rewire your thoughts, and your thought patterns that basically manifested already at that point, to prevent the peak of an anxiety attack going into a panic attack.
And those breathing exercises, they aren't just for when you're feeling stressed or feeling anxious or having a panic attack. If you practice them on a more regular basis, like for example, right before you go to sleep, it's a great time to practice them, because it already makes you tired, and then you might sleep better. But if you do that every night before you go to sleep, it's also going to help you in the future to maybe you're reducing a lot of those anxieties and those levels of adrenaline in your brain on a regular basis. And so it'll be much easier for you to either avoid or at least quickly get out of a panic attack should that come up.
The thing is, if I get a good point, the word avoid is a little, I don't know, I wouldn't say avoid, because avoid can basically bring you in that state of, I don't want to get it again. I need to,
No, not necessarily, but it's just like you work out to avoid getting overweight. You eat
Yeah,
well
I mean,
to
that's
avoid
true.
health
That's
problems.
That's true. The thing is, you shouldn't fear a panic attack. There are people who are so deep into that state of panic attacks that they fear a panic attack coming, and that alone fuels anxiety, and that alone can get you to the point where you have a panic attack. I think, again, a panic attack is something that is completely natural. So is anxiety. The problem is that your brain just does some stuff that it shouldn't do because of your thought patterns, because of stress, because of things you did. Alcohol, drugs, smoking, and coffee, for example, are also not the best things to go along with. So if you already feel anxious, you might not want to drink coffee, even though, or try to drink like caffeine-free coffee, which already helps a little bit, if you really like the taste of coffee. But there are a lot of things you should or you can do to calm yourself. And again, if it happens, then it happens. It's fine. You will be fine afterwards. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing bad, even though it might feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
And I know from people who drove to the hospital
My mom.
Right, because they thought something is seriously wrong with them. And I was at that state where I drove to the hospital and went to the doctor multiple times, not because I had a panic attack, but because my anxiety was so high all the time. But yeah, it's an interesting thing that your body tells you, and it's you should, what I've learned in those years, I think it's a sign that maybe your lifestyle in that moment, in that exact moment, is not the best. Maybe you're overworking yourself. We just did an episode on that. Maybe you are in a relationship that is not good for you. Maybe there is something bothering you about your life choices that is sitting on your shoulders. Or maybe it's something from the past that you haven't worked through yet. Might be like an early relationship or a childhood even, or an accident or whatever. There are so many things that can be can be the root of that, and finding that root and also understanding that root might help you already to get not rid of it, but to lower the whole thing.
I mean, it did for me with my anxiety. Once I kind of discovered the root of why I suffer from the anxiety disorder that I do, it helped me. Sure, I still have anxiety, and I do still have days or weeks where sometimes it's really bad, but it has significantly decreased in the last few years, and to the point where I go months at a time without worrying about the stuff that I usually worry about. So it does help to try to look within yourself and at your life and just try to find the things that could be a cause. And if you're feeling constantly stressed or anxious about when the next anxiety attack is going to come or panic attack is going to come, or if you're avoiding certain situations because you're like, okay, this is going to bring me anxiety if I go do this, or if I go to this friend's house, or with this many people, I'm not going to feel good. I'm going to freak out. If you're avoiding situations like that, or like I said before, if you're constantly worrying about the next panic attack, you might have something called panic disorder. And it's good to seek medical help for that. Talk to your doctor, talk to a therapist.
Yeah, I would go to a therapist.
Well, it's also not the worst thing to go to a doctor either. That can be helpful, but therapy, I think, is ultimately, your doctor will probably prescribe you something like an anxiety pill or, something to reduce your anxiety. Right. But I think it's almost better to go to therapy. Not all doctors are like that. Some doctors will say, hey, go to therapy.
Yeah.
But my rule of thumb is if you don't have to take medication for it, if maybe it's solved another way, then that's always my first choice.
Also, disclaimer, just to be sure to get it out there, if you have feelings that something is wrong in your body, seek medical attention, obviously. Because if you really have a heart attack and you think it's nothing, it's just a panic attack, then Yeah. So you might want to clear that first, and if you experience it more often, then you already know. Okay, I'm sure it's not that. You know, or I can at least be yeah. You know,
Rule it out.
Rule it out. Right. Thanks. Well, I think that's it.
I think so.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing if you do. Thanks for subscribing. And yeah, we'll hear each other next week.
Should we say goodbye to Brian?
I think he's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
He's watching. He's watching Harry Potter on telly with a crumpet and cup of tea.
A crumpet?
A crumpet and a cup of tea.
Okay, well, we're gonna go join Brian with Harry Potter and a crumpet and a cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.